Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
I hope everyone is off to a great start to the week with no echoes. Hey, it's rewarding when guests remind us of their upcoming conferences, and a couple of days after they return home, they send us an email and tell us that publicity helped to bring new faces to the venue. And Barbara and I received a very appreciative email from Mike Colacuri yesterday thanking us for helping to promote this year's AAPS conference. So thank you, Mike. A few weeks ago, we had Michael Feely as a guest, and he gave us a sneak peek of his presentation at the Global Pyramid Conference. My friend Bruce Cunningham contacted me or connected me to Marta Thomas about 5 years ago as she was getting her Global Pyramid Conference underway. And under Marta's guidance, the conference has grown. And she has sent to Barbara and me great guests over the years. And she's going to be talking to us for a few minutes here at the beginning of the show. And if you want to learn more about the conference, the website is globalpyramidnetwork.com. And we also have Jared Murphy. He's the author of It's Not Aliens Worse, It's Us, returning for about the third time to discuss his latest expedition to the Grand Canyon and explorations in the area of where the Kincaide Cave was. So we have two great guests, so kick back for the next couple hours and enjoy. Hi, Marta and Jared. How are you?
Terrific. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Mark. This is great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great 2 hours. So, Marta, when and where is the Global Pyramid Conference?
The conference coming up soon, October 22nd to the 24th, and it's going to be live streamed. And on Saturday night, we are going to have a party inside a pyramid house in Chicago, Illinois, just about 25 minutes north of the city to a town called Wadsworth, Illinois. We will have live Middle Eastern music, and we're going to have some guests as well during the evening, and some dancing and some vendors just to have fun. For the rest of the time during the day, we will have the conference live stream. It's a 3-day event, It's $99 for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We begin on Friday at 12 o'clock. And we have an amazing group of people, as always. It's just fascinating what people are doing with pyramids. And on Friday in particular, we were going to have an interactive Ankh initiation with one of our guests, Rohi from Switzerland. So among the many things you're going to hear and see, that will be really, really unique. We also have a man named George Gelly from Louisiana who is going to tell you about the first pyramid ever found in the United States and where it's located. And it comes along with an ancient civilization that no one has ever spoken about. So that's going to be revealed on Sunday. We also have Valery Uvarov from Russia, who is just absolutely amazing. He will be revealed some very unique and very unique information about pyramids. He himself has built 13 pyramids in an area just outside of St. Petersburg, Russia. And he has one center pyramid and 12 surrounding it. And he has built it remembering what he had done in past lives. So that he will be talking about on Saturday afternoon. We also have Sam Osmanagy from Bosnia, the discoverer of the biggest pyramid ever found so far. And it's a set of 5 different pyramids, one of which pyramid is so big that the people in town thought it was a mountain. And just to give you more or less an idea how big this thing is, it takes half hour by car to go from the town at the base of the pyramid to the plateau of the pyramid on top. Imagine, half hour by car. So he will be talking about the vibration inside the pyramid. One of the things they found and recorded was sound emanating from the stones in the Sun Pyramid. And this was recorded in different parts of the pyramid at 5 o'clock during a winter month. And he will be talking about that. We also have Marika Berenson from Spain, who will be speaking on Sunday morning about the connection with pyramids and the heart, which tend to think about it as even having a connection. She's also going to discuss a project that we're doing internationally with all pyramids to raise the vibration inside the pyramid as well as throughout the planet. And I can go on and on. We have just completely amazing group. I hope everyone is able to be part of this and join in to the conference. Do you have questions for me?
Yeah, and it sounds like Dr. Sam and Marika are kind of focusing on some of the healing aspects of the pyramids.
Actually, yes.
It seems like it's part of the theme of this year's conference.
We have a speaker who is going to tell you how he was able to heal his daughter's hole in her heart by using pyramid water and pyramids in 3 months. The doctors were astonished when they retested her after having found this hole in her heart. And 3 months later, they come back and there was nothing. The heart was completely healed. So yes, we will be talking about healing the body as well.
Okay. Yeah, we've heard, when Perry's been a guest with us, she's spoken about the healing potential of pyramids, and when Maria Wheatley was a guest, she's spoken about Stonehenge could be seen as a hospital. It did attract people from distant lands to come there to be healed. So it really seems like there's something to the energies emanating from these megalithic structures, or going back even farther than that.
Well, one thing people have over the decades and have always put the emphasis on the Egyptian pyramids and the Egyptian plateau, but remember, we didn't roll out of bed one day and say, well, I'm going to build this humongous pyramid that nobody has ever done, in which one stone is 5,000 tons. There was an in-between. There was an in-between. We don't know at this point what the ancients used pyramids for, but something has to be done way before that building that we now know as it's a pyramid. It's something, and many somethings were done prior to that. What did the people use pyramids for before building that pyramid? That is something I'm really interested in finding out. And hopefully we will, in the near future, find out through people being able to remember their past lives and the things they have done. And by coming together as we're doing now, it is wonderful to see the vendors and the speakers and the attendees come together. Magic happens there.
Okay, and you'll be getting, the presenters will be discussing pyramids from Russia, Egypt,
Bosnia, Switzerland, India,
Ecuador,
Philippines.
Yeah. So
yes.
So there will be perspectives given from pyramids located around the world. So it's a comprehensive look at pyramids.
That is one of the many reasons I'm to be doing this, because people, again, put the attention in Egypt, but pyramids are found worldwide. And God only knows how many pyramids we have yet to find. That they're there, they're covered, we don't see them, so we don't know they exist. Bosnia Pyramid, who's the largest pyramid so far found, is one of those. It's completely covered. The town thought it was a mountain for the longest time. And it was amazing. Sam came in, and Dr. Sam came in and discovered that it's not a mountain. But how many times in how many places in the earth the same thing is happening over and over again? But people think it's a mountain, and it's not. So there's a lot to be discovered. But the emphasis need to be in what did we do before we build these gigantic pyramids? What did we do? Because time we got up one morning and the process of going to build the pyramid. What were we doing in between that we have such keen interest in pyramids that we decided to build such a big, massive pyramid that cannot even be duplicated today with the technology that we have? So how did we use them in the past?
Okay. So there'll be plenty of answers, and how do people? It's a webinar this year. Is that correct?
Yes, it's being live streamed, and you can watch it not only that weekend but for several weeks after. So you have plenty of time. Okay. And we'd love to have you guys join.
Okay. So, and all the information is on your website, globalpyramidnetwork.com?
Or Global Pyramid Conference. Either one will take you to the same site. Okay. And we have most of the speakers posted already. And again, that's September 22nd to the 24th.
October.
October, yes.
And you have many of the presenters are professional people, medical doctors. Michael Feely was he was a retired police officer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. A complete turnaround, no?
Yes, correct. Yeah, it looks like a very well-educated group of presenters.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Okay. Jared, do you have any questions? Or
Oh yeah. As long as we have a couple minutes, that'd be great.
Sure. Go ahead.
So there's so many different directions we could go with this, and I would love to have you on Not Aliens too on my podcast, Discovering Lost History. But first, while we're on air, one of the things I mentioned right away in my book is the pyramid that's off the coast of Cuba, and yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with that one. That's 2,300 feet deep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you are the, I mean, not to put you on the spot, as the global pyramiding network guru, but for all the things that I'm working on, I really want to know if you've ever heard any updates specifically on that one or anything else that's as anomalous as, I mean, because by my estimates and research, that thing couldn't have been, yes, including the theory of hydrostatic plate shifting, there's no way that pyramid by any other means was above, on the surface or ashore less than 50,000 years ago, and that really puts us closer and really puts us back to Mount Toba going off 75,000 years ago. So we talk about when and how long these things have existed, and there's a good evidence about the antiquity, but my question, I guess, backing it back up is, do you know why or if anything else has been done with any research on that complex since in the last 14 years?
Not that I'm aware of, no. It seems like
and
a
why
lot
do you
would
think?
sound, well, it's all about, we have been given a set of, what can I call it, a set of years and dogma in regards to what our path is or was. And perhaps if we start digging, it does not fit the mold or what we've been told is our path. I can tell you one particular pyramid that has been tested and in research is the Bosnia Pyramid. And that pyramid is tested scientifically to be 29,000 years older than what we have been told is the beginning of civilization. Well, if that's the case, then who built it if we were not here? So the pyramid we are going to divulge at the conference, it is in that general facility, and we don't know how old it is, but it comes with a city that has been buried for decades and eons. So hopefully in time that can also be researched and more found out. Do you have another question?
Yeah,
I
Mark,
hope
do we
I
have
answer
time,
you.
or?
Oh yeah.
Mark?
I just I just want to make sure Marta gets maximum coverage.
Oh, great, good. So, because I like
it's great. She's having a great time with us. This is why we keep doing this. We've been doing this for the last 5 years, so we have fun. It's a good time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the, I guess since we have time, and yeah, I do field research, and of course I've written, but the pyramid, that entire worldwide complex of pyramids, always fascinates me for the common construction methods, et cetera, et cetera. Have you ever, in the course of your conferences, or have you had Dr. Joseph Davidovitz speak from his work in the 80s about the geopolymers. Not so many people get hung up on an elementary conversation about is the Great Pyramid, or like you said, one, too hung up on Egypt, totally agree. But two, I don't think that it was a geopolymer built pyramid, but what I find interesting is the antiquity of a machine that either through natural disaster or through weaponized maybe some mechanical failure, at some point geopolymers were used to patch that pyramid. And so I'm wondering with like the Bay and Cadiz that's been found to have that Teflon like Merlin Burroughs did that work on that, I know they said Atlantis, but the reality is that there are ancient silicretes, concretes, geopolymers, and I was just hoping that maybe since you're covering a whole side of the universe that I can't wait to talk to you more on after this, is Dr. Joseph Davidovitz ever been involved with any of your work, or have you been able to talk to him at all? And is there anything? Go.
Basically, up to now, I had fallen into a crack, so to speak. My gift is that I don't have the credential all these wonderful hardcore researchers have. I am an average person that has an average interest, or maybe a little more than average interest in pyramids. I am like the next person and wants to know more about what happened here, how were these things get to be, why are they there, and so on. So my not knowing has gotten me to this. That's my gift. And I am not a researcher. I am not a PhD, but I am organizing and putting together a part of pyramids that have not been touched before. By that I mean, it was 6 years ago, it was unheard of to have that we even had people doing work with pyramids, in their backyard, inside their house, doing healings with pyramids. That was unheard of. There was no place to go to find them. Nobody knew about them. So I am trying to be the in-between person to connect the dots, so to speak, with the people that are doing this work, phenomenal work, but nobody hears about it because there's no place to showcase them. And this is what I've been doing now for my 6 years of doing this. And hopefully we go further. We have some plans in the near future to continue working with pyramids, to start using hopefully the pyramids as everybody get together and put their input into how pyramids were done, were worked on and used in the past. Hopefully we can put all that information together and begin to see a more clear picture of pyramids. And again, my emphasis is in that void between building a pyramid in Egypt and rolling out of bed in the morning. There's a huge gap there that I like to find more about. And the only way to do this is if we connect. I use the term often, pyramid family coming together, because that's how what I see is happening. I hope that helped you in my explanation.
Well, there is a big market for ancient history, lost knowledge. I'm sure Jared would concur with that. And why is there the popularity of Ancient Aliens for 15 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now's the time to really get connect with people who are interested in watching a conference or attending one once those are allowed to happen again. But people really want to know. I'd like to have a great forum established, and so many connected us to so many great speakers.
Yeah, I do think that we need to. I think the popularity of having platforms like this and what you're doing at the end of October is perfect to get people to. It's a casual interest, and I've often talked about people's stored genetic memories, collective consciousness. The reality is that all of that pulls together, and the most casual viewer listener can have a memory jogged or just an interest that goes beyond just one simple view into a question that maybe nobody's ever asked.
Correct. Yes, I totally agree.
Or just that, just say that section on the pyramids in high school really wasn't long enough, and 20 years later, someone never really lost the enthusiasm for that subject, but he or she just wants to know more, and you just keep the more Barbara and I keep talking with people, and we hear that, we get feedback like that from people.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a group of people that just absolutely are connected 100% to pyramids. And they can talk about it for hours on end. And they're so excited to come across someone else that they can talk about pyramids with. They just light up when that happens. It's quite magical. Back in the 70s, there seems to be a humongous surge in pyramid interest and pyramid books and pyramid experiments. And they all seem to have died down by the beginning of the 80s. And unfortunately, most of the people that wrote the books back in the 70s are no longer with us to tell us what that was about. But let's see if it happens again. I think we're, that can be something that's coming up our way as to the interest in pyramids again.
Well, Marta, but probably by the 90s and the appearance of the X-Files and with the Ancient Aliens series a few years later, all that's being revived. You hear a lot of people still talking about Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's just a lot of people just wanting to know. They want to know more because I think times are changing and the old guard is dying off, and all that they had hidden is coming to light now.
Yes. I hope that's the case. Yes, there's so many unanswered questions in our history. When you look back and things don't add up necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Okay. Marta, we've kind of kept you a little bit over. Hope that didn't bother you too much. But is there anything with which you want to conclude, and we'll let you get your jammies on and get ready for bed?
I just want to be sure to invite everyone to join us at the Global Pyramid Conference, October 22nd to the 24th. Do go online and check it out. You'll see, and we'll see what you think. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being a great supporter of our shows over the years, and we have a great reciprocal relationship going on, and we look forward to continuing talking with you in the years to come.
Likewise. Thank you so much, both of you. Good night.
All right. Take care, Marta.
Good night.
Okay, that was an interesting discussion. Well, fascinating subject too. So, okay, let's move from pyramids to your recent trip to Arizona. Yeah. Let's get into the fabled Kincaide Cave. What got you interested in this subject?
Oh, it's crazy. I wish it didn't all overlap with my original book, but it was probably 5 years ago. I didn't intend to. Whether you use the word conspiracy or whatever your ancient mystery history is, every conspiracy, every mystery somehow gets all piled together. And so as I was sorting through the piles of everything from ancient engineered soils to pyramids to, the Paracas of Peru and ancient DNA, and all of this is avalanching on top of avalanching. And then, okay, well, in my original research, this entire world seems to be way more connected, way outside of what we think of our standard academic history. And up comes a story as I'm doing my original research way back. I spent hours. I was just fascinated by the idea that, you go quickly from, you accelerate very fast past the Templars, Vikings and Templars in America to, wait, the Egyptians were here? Oh, wait, the Chinese were here? And then you hear about this tomb, and I just was fascinated by it.
Okay, so when were you there?
So fast forwarding, I wrote my book and started doing a lot of shows, guesting and hosting, and then one day about 4 months ago, it just came up that, on my list of places to go, that was one of them. And, with the situation around the world right now being what it is, right now we've put off a very large expedition that I've been planning with Jen Deo to Peru. And I'm like, look, I know climbers, very expert climbers. I climb. There's going to be some significant rope work involved. We have the equipment. Let's go. And I ended up doing an interview with Rex from Leak Project. And he said, well, I'm going to the Grand Canyon. And I said, well, I'm going to the Grand Canyon. And he goes, let's go together. So we ended up meeting in Arizona. We planned for about a month, which each of us had already been planning for over 3 months, trying to get the right research down, trying to figure out where we're going to go to find there's a mile marker where the cave's supposed to be. So we ended up there for about a week and over Labor Day. So we went end of August into September. So this is a very recent expedition to Navajo Nation land and the Grand Canyon public lands to see if we could locate the cave, the fabled cave that people have been chatting about now for 112 years, give or take. Well, actually longer. So the first article, there were 2 articles that were not on April Fools that came out in 1909, 1908, that period. And so we have, that puts us 113. Is that about right?
We don't do math on nightlight.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's how we feel. But yeah, so we went, and that the whole story around the cave, what's really important and significant is the story as usual, massive find in the United States or fill in the blank somewhere in the world. Smithsonian comes, British Museum comes, governments come, and whether it's for ancient high technology or even like pyramids for healing, they come and they took all the mummies that G.E. Kincaide said he found, along with a Buddhist statue, that there was either Oriental and or Egyptian-like symbols within the cave, and it was a system of caves because he went further into it and swore he found an also underground large city or city-like area, the point where he is on the river. when he does this in Marble Canyon, it's described only in these two articles. So when we were up above, it is a bit of a feat to find where, well, it's specifically past a set of rapids within a mile or half mile or within a few hundred feet based on the description of the article. So we know exactly where in Marble Canyon it's the Quagunt Rapids. And you can get on a group by lottery because so many people want to do these trips in the canyon, but you have to have a permit to give you an idea how dangerous it is. The day before I left, besides the heat warnings that went to September 1st that said if you're trekking into the canyon on a day permit or an overnight permit, like you can walk into the canyon via a permit, but you're recommended to be done. You have to get down on the switchbacks into the canyon prior to 10 a.m. because it gets so hot. You need to get into the shade. You need to be in the canyon by the time the sun is past 10 a.m. And then you're not supposed to hike out of the canyon before 3. And 2 days before I went, 2 guys hiked into the canyon. Only one guy came out, and they weren't even hiking together. The other guy actually, I mean, it's a river. It goes left and right. You know what I mean? And there's a little more room in the canyon if you start dawdling around, but he got lost, and a rescue crew took 3 days to find him. And when I got back from the trip, 2 days after the trip, there was an article that said an emergency rescue crew went looking for a European that got lost, and they found someone that had been missing since 2015, and he was not alive. But
wow,
they had been looked. Yeah, so that's how dangerous the canyon is. No joke for eating people.
So I read up a little bit on the cave, and Kincaide noticed it from the river. So basically, you cannot see it from like standing on one like canyon wall, look over across the river to the rock outcropping on the other side. Does it seem from Kincaide's descriptions that it's better viewed from the lower angle from the river?
Yeah, it's so interesting because there is so many different sedimentary layers within the canyon over what they think is at least 1 billion years of history of the formation. I mean, this is the canyon is theoretically dating back to Pangea, and its formation is from the stresses, also possibly from the breaking up of the land masses. But there's so many different geological layers. There's all this oxidation, and there are tons of uranium mines in the Grand Canyon, to the point where when I left the canyon, the government's been mining uranium in, out, and near the Grand Canyon since the 50s. And on top of it, they have currently, from what I can tell, over 500 open uranium mining permits for the Grand Canyon, which I'm all for having the MRI machine work and my dental, x-rays and nuclear weapons, I guess. There's a lot of things uranium's used for. Also, a lot of people feel the Grand Canyon should be used for that because those contaminants are, of course, in the river.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It's like, it can be like fracking.
Oh, yeah, there's an open pit of mining tailings just over in Utah, and the pit is literally right next to the river. It takes thousands of tons of rock to get to just a pound of uranium, so there's a lot of processing, but there's still a lot of contamination. And it blew my mind the more of all the mysteries I ran into, there's actually many really crazy things about the canyon besides the people who get accidentally or fallen into it, which I believe the grand total currently is 19 have fallen off while taking photos or being goofy or standing on the edge. So, or like 50, wait, no, it's 53. And then it was 19. I was going through it. I had to stop reading because it was like, I can't believe you people are doing this. It's just horrible. Like there's no reason for you to fall off and you just did it. But the uranium mining permits, they really got into it in the 50s and 60s and created quite a bit of a mess to the point that on the far side of the canyon, and everyone goes north-south, but the reality is that the canyon goes more east-west. And so on the east, in Arizona, in Page, where Antelope Canyon is, where that famous Peter Lick photo was taken, where a lot of people like to stop at Lake Powell. It's on the side of the canyon where the Navajo Bridge is, and the big famous Horseshoe Bend. Everyone likes to take photos at Horseshoe Bend. It's $10 for parking. It's public access. You just roll up, you walk down and you take a picture of Horseshoe Bend. And, well, the Lake Powell, the reason they dammed it up and even made the lake, the first thought everyone has is, oh, it's for water and for the area. What you don't know, Mark, is, or maybe you do, but there is 39,000, now this is what's officially quoted, there are 39,000 tons of uranium mining tailings, which are the remnants of what they couldn't use from mining uranium in the bottom of Lake Powell. The drinking water and the recreational water for that whole area is a containment pond for 39,000 tons of uranium tailings.
I did not know that. That just sounds very unhealthy.
Right? Doesn't it? It's just horrible. It's the drinking water. It's the recreation water.
So why don't you take a slurp out of like Fukushima?
Now they say that
the same thing.
Well, they say that, and follow this logic, they say that the water acts as a barrier to the uranium tailings being active or getting further up or floating or moving outside of staying within their containment area at the bottom. And again, I don't, personally, I can only go with what they say. And currently what they say is that there's 39,000 tons of tailings. Okay, but does that mean that there's not more, or does that mean that they're intact and they're, in quote, safe position? That's frustrating because there have been indigenous tribes in the area that have won lawsuits. Well, right now, the number I've heard, what I read, that $500 million has been set aside to clean up not only not the tailings in Lake Powell, but other tailings that have led to dust in the air that have been people have been breathing in Arizona, and particularly in indigenous and Native Nation lands, and the money never materialized. And I know that's not where we're going with all this, but the reality is that it's interesting because there are mining pads, concrete poured pads that people think are the pads that are used for maybe getting the Kincaide treasure out, that in order to lift out 80 mummies and gold and treasures and high technology that the government created. I've been being sent, I met some great local Navajo Nation guides in Tuba City, which is where we stayed for a few days, which is dead center Navajo Nation. And while we were there, now I'm working with them. We were working with the Navajo when we went. Now we have new contacts that have been getting us some preliminary photography, and we've been lining that up with different things that, we want to find the truth. So it doesn't matter. It's definitely not an issue if it's aliens or if it's not Egyptian or Oriental in origins. What the issue is let's just unpack this and try to get all the information, kind of like the Pyramid Conference. Can we start trying to get this information at one point of access for people to just find it?
I agree. No, it's we just want to know the truth.
Yeah, and we found the preliminary investigations for some of the pads are showing that, okay, well, this appears to be a pad for maybe something to do with mining. And then recently I had a great fan send me some info about, you won't believe it, the creation of the FAA. Did you know that it has to do directly with the Grand Canyon?
I did not know that.
I did not either. And so these pads, again, it all goes back to we're trying to find the source of the Kincaide. And this, I want everyone listening, this is exactly what happens when you go out and say, well, I'm going to go find something. And the amount of things that you find that should be exciting on themselves or interesting or something to strike a passion up for, you should just stop at each one of those. And here's another great example. We come to find out that two flights, a TWA and a United flight, in 1956, Eisenhower's president, 1955, so Eisenhower's president, and we do not, believe it or not, when you got in an airplane, think about it, it's World War II's over, we're 10 years out, there's no air traffic control, there's no we got radar, but we were using it in World War II. Everybody was so naive about how big the sky was that the thousands and thousands of flights that were flying by 1956, nobody thought that two planes could run into each other. And tragically, two flights with 77 on one flight, and on the other, it totals up to over 128 people dead. The two planes collide mid-air towards the east side of the canyon, and the wreckage lands on some very precarious slopage above the rim on multiple sides. And of course, the tragedy of it was that first there are still ropes, which I can get you photos of this. There are ropes still hung from 1956 from the crews that risked because climbing is inherently dangerous, and you can mitigate most of the risks. So for us to go climb in the canyon, the expedition that I just went on was also a preliminary trip for planning that. We had lots of digital equipment for photography and P1000 Nikon telephoto zoom lenses that could photograph a 3-inch rock from 3 miles away. I mean, it was crazy, the equipment we had. And you don't just show up with some ropes and say, I'm gonna rappel or climb up like G.E. Kincaide said he saw an opening that was 2,000 feet above the canyon floor, and somehow he managed that on his own, solo, and that's quite a feat. And we can unpack that after the fact that Eisenhower signs the documentation, and in 1956, the FAA is created because of this crash on the east side of the canyon, and fast forward in 1976, they had recovered the bodies or what they could of everything in 56. But 20 years later, they mounted another expedition and created pads, and we think this is another possibility for some of the pads that we found, that it had nothing to do with the Smithsonian taking anything out of the canyon, but it actually may have to do with the fact that they were trying to remove heavy engine parts and fuselages and other things that hit a section of the canyon that slid into a crevasse that is hundreds of feet off the ground and quite impossible to just get to easily. You'd have to make a really great effort to get to it. So they, of course, did what they could to secure the equipment and get a lot of the plane parts. And what's interesting is, to this day, you can hike into the canyon. They have a wreckage. You can actually still see wreckage in situ. It's still laying in some of its original locations. They just didn't take everything out. But the FAA literally is birthed, and tracking aircraft happened because of this crash, not out of possible area range to explain some of these concrete pads that we are attributing to Kincaide in order to get the mummies out, when in reality it could be this, or it could be the remnants of old uranium mines. There's a number of other minerals in Arizona all around. I mean, there's not just uranium, but it's a very valuable commodity to our government, to our medical fields, and so many applications for it. It's a valuable substance. But then there are people who don't want the Grand Canyon to go under any kind of excavations. But we have anthropologists and paleoanthropologists doing work. Of the 270 miles of potential caves, this is something exciting for everyone, Mark. I haven't brought it up yet, but there is a paleoanthropologist. Oh, go ahead.
Exclusive.
Yeah, well, there's a gentleman in charge of Carlsbad who said that there has to be more caves in the Grand Canyon than in Carlsbad. And that's saying something. And he was part of the team that since 1969 has done a lot of the exploration of about 150 miles of the Grand Canyon. So what's exciting about this is that in modern times, they've also academically, which is fair, unfair, they've kept a lot of the cave systems they've explored under wraps. And the reason is because in the 70s, one time, a location that had been explored was exposed. Local or people came who were climbing and adventuring, and they started a fire. And most of the caves are filled with all sorts of things that are tens of thousands of years old. Like there's an extinct sloth that was found in one of the caves that he found that died between 10 and 50,000 years ago. But there's mummified, very well preserved, because caves just have that right moisture and preservation. The temperature is just perfect to not only mummify but also preserve organic tissues, all sorts of horses, every kind of animal and creature. And there's a mystery ancient people I can tell you about in a second. But what I wanted to just throw out to all you adventurers out there is there's at least 120 miles that they have no eyes to publicly, and even academically in private circles. There's a minimum of 120 miles of caving, potential caves that no one's ever found and no one's ever looked in modern times. And of the ones that they've looked in, of the 150 miles that Professor Mead has looked at, well, not just like he's looked at them alone or that there's not researchers, but to give you an idea, one of the caves that they talk about that they found has 40 miles of tunnels.
Okay, so
40 miles.
That's some pretty staggering numbers. And it does not seem to make Kincaide's statements about like 700 foot long rooms, it's like a bunch of hyperbole.
Yeah, you're right.
It seems like your information seems accurate with what G. Kincaide said.
Yeah, and for those listening, I guess that there is a lot of interesting, mysterious things. There's even a people we can talk about in a minute called the Stick People. That's the name they were coined. But to answer the question on the G.E. Kincaide Cave, we did very extensive filming and photography, and the explorations conclusions of our initial expedition, which was to, one, at least locate the opening that G.E. Kincaide describes, which is approximately 1,400 feet from the rim of where we were and 2,000 feet from the canyon floor. We were on the exact location that the Kincaide Cave is supposed to be. In the canyon below, there are these rapids, and right near the rapids there is a campsite. So to give everyone an idea, if you and I were with G.E. Kincaide, to get to that point on the river where he describes he saw the cave, the people we were looking down at that were on their adventure, they we're not on one of the kayak tours that is 5 hours. You know, you and I can show up to the canyon tomorrow and spend $130 or give or take and get in an outfitter's kayak, and we can float around Horseshoe Bend and be in the canyon, which is quite an experience for 5 hours. And I'm saying this, by the way, because I cannot tell you how often I wanted to bang my head on the wall. When you go looking, except for maybe like people who are professional hikers who must be used, whatever web designer, the three that they use to make all hiking information to be the most complex, convoluted, unmanageably complex. It is so frustrating if you want to go from zero to, I would like to get a permit to go for a day hike into the canyon. I would like to take one of these river trips. It took forever for me to find out that if you're on a camping trip in the canyon and you're traversing some fairly decent intermediate to advanced rapids and you're in this group and you're camping where we were looking down and we could see their campsite, you've been on the river for 7 to 11 days, depending on what you're doing. You're at a campsite at rapids where Kincaide said, I was floating down the river looking for adventurous stuff to do. He saw a discoloration, which, by the way, everything is bleeding and oxidizing, reds, oranges, blacks. I mean, like, and I became the expert from the rim without using the telephoto lens and finding bushes that look like cave openings. I am an expert at finding foliage mid-canyon wall. And so as you traverse all these things and you understand that the scope that Kincaide would have had to enter the river anywhere from, like, if he was really booking it, 5 to 7 days to get to where he was. But somewhere between 5 and 11 days or 7 and 9, he has been on the river in a canoe with a crap load of supplies, because I'm telling you, you're not crawling out of the canyon to get your water real fast. If you're that committed and you're that far in, you know, it's a significant point. We drove across very rough terrain in a very well outfitted 4x4 vehicle with, you know, the three of us, and we were an hour and a half from a gas station. We were an hour from what you could call a road, and we get out there with all of our equipment, and we're out there for 3 days at this particular location. And I can tell you, Mark, we did not see any cave opening in the required footage or along the area that the cave is supposed to exist. We did not see any cave opening. And now we did not have any thermal imaging abilities. So we would also have to plan to stay there at night. Excuse me. And I have no problem staying there at night. But the deal is we didn't have any thermal imaging because we really expected, because of all the talk and all the podcasts and all the radio shows and TV shows, all the chat, these are things that we need to go back out and prove, because we can. And this is one of those caves where if the opening has been collapsed intentionally, if that's the case, thermal imaging at night would show us a temperature differential and would let us know that we are actually looking at a cave opening where we maybe are actually looking at a bush. But we didn't have that ability. So we're planning to go back out again and exhaust those methods, that wasn't the only place we were in the canyon. So I could go on about it, but the headline here is we went to multiple locations to look for potential targets of interest that included, for everyone listening, we weren't just screamingly focused on the G.E. Kincaide Cave. I was very much focused on our mystery of a global pyramid building, polygonal constructing, ancient engineered soiled, seismic metamaterial, controlling, advanced human race. If they were using the canyon or doing anything in it, 20, 30, 50, pre-Younger Dryas or pre-Mount Toba, there would be rock-cut ruins, or there would be, even if it was great antiquity and had been mostly maybe weathered away, I was still hoping to find rock-cut openings. That's one of the things that I'm getting great help with from some Navajo guys from Cuba, is looking for rock-cut openings that appear to be advanced. They're not, and the Anasazi, of course, this is like this is well within Anasazi land, and there's so many mysteries around their relationship, what's been implied with aliens or extraterrestrial, and I don't go that route, but I would say advanced ancient humans and the Anasazi definitely overlap in their relationship to just being in this area, and the possibility that we could find an ancient advanced rock cut ruin, even if it's just a doorway, a mantle, just a couple, megalithic looking lentils that show that there was once an entrance into something. It doesn't have to have hieroglyphs that would be amazing, or even petroglyphs. I mean, it's not that I was opposed. Ironically, my big disappointment and we did find a pictograph. I did find a pictograph. We were having this
Cool.
this exact moment. I said basically what I just said to you to Rex, and Rex was standing on a rock, and he turned around, and I looked down, and I went, well, exactly like this. And there was a big sunburst pecked into the top of this rock, and there was a compass guide next to it, a line across, and it exactly lined up with some stuff in the canyon. And so we did find things that were more contemporary, and it had some great antiquity to the aging, to the pecking, that formed this giant sun with bursting sun rays out of it. I did find that. We did see Apache helicopters. We did see 3 very mysterious guys kind of following us at one point when we were on another area that closer to Page, I guess. That side of the canyon where the Navajo bridges.
Yeah, that sounds suspicious. You were talking about you're an hour from the nearest real road and 90-minute drive to the nearest gas station, and you're about one of the most remote places in America, and all of a sudden people show up walking side by side with you. That doesn't sound normal.
No, because where we were, there was no reason for them to be like. There was just no reason for it. There was no reason they should have been. It was very interesting. We had gotten back from another day of exploration. We were at the Navajo Bridge, and it was 3 dudes. All of them out of their car, all of them on their phone, none of them talking to each other, but they were all leaning on the hood of the car. The problem with the giveaway for these guys was that they were all staring at us, and it wasn't like they were looking quick and still chatting or figuring out where they were going or what they were doing. They specifically were watching us move around equipment. They were specifically, and I am not looking for drama or big conspiracy thing, but, for irrelevant, I don't want to burst anyone's imagination bubble, but the truth is, it's like, oh, you people work for someone, I don't know who, and you're definitely not on your phones because you're on your phones. You are all simultaneously staring at us. None of you are talking. Guys in their late 20s to 30s don't do that. They don't just lean on the hood of their car all facing each other and not talking, but all staring at us. And the minute we load everything and we decide we're going to leave, they all get in their car like they're going to follow us. And we're like, so Rex pulled over, I pulled over, and we made them leave the lot without us. And then we kind of followed each other into Page, but it was very interesting. So that was a little bit of a side note. But staying on topic of the Kincaide Cave, I do want to explain for anyone that's super interested that I'm not going to say no that it's not there, but it was very specifically supposed to be by these rapids. And yes, in 112 years or 120 years, the rapids could maybe shift a little depending on the size of the rocks. But that's we were there. We were there where it's supposed to be, and there was just not a cave opening.
Okay. So, supposedly, Kincaide noted a flight of steps.
Yeah. No.
I don't know if you saw that. That was in some of the information I was reading.
I have
it was
extensive 6K photos. If you want, I'll have to get you some, and they're behind. I'm going to be posting them on Not Aliens in my member area. I'll have a few free ones, and I'll be doing a documentary on it. But to your point, I feel like you particularly should get a chance to look at the high def. And Gary, this whole genesis was me and Gary from Everything Imaginable. We co-host together, and we were. He actually
Gary's
called
a good
me
guy.
this morning. He is an awesome guy, and he actually called me this morning and said, have you looked at your footage? And I'm like, well, there's 55 gigs of 6K footage, and there's 3,000 photos. So I took a lot of it, but looking at it has been a challenge as I put out this other documentary that I'm working on that I'm hoping to have up by next weekend. Not this coming Friday, but the following. I thought it was going to be released 2 weekends ago, and sorry, everyone, it's taking me a little. It's just a full-length doc. It's like 55 minutes, 45, somewhere in there. It's taking me a long time to finish, but I'm like, well, the next thing is to put out this footage of the Kincaide trip for anyone to look at it and go, oh, I saw something, I see something, and I definitely want to get that up on notaliens.com. And the member area is super cheap. It really helps support expeditions like this. But yeah, you're going to have to look at the footage because Gary saw something, and what's even worse is that I said we had our show tonight, and I'm like, I'm talking to Mark, and I got no time, and Gary's like, I'll call you later. I got to talk to you about the footage, and I don't even know what he's excited about. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, gee.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We'll have to bring Gary on for another nightlight exclusive.
But yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, we can do that. But you were talking about Antelope, getting to Antelope Canyon and
yeah.
So some of these like specific locations. You said Solaris set you up with some people, guides that she knew in the area.
Those are the ones that Rex knew,
and
okay, right. She knew. No, they both
okay.
did, and I was going to contact that couple, and then Rex was like, well, I've already met them out there, and I've already done some preliminary, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to double up our work if you've already done that. I said, let's just meet, and I won't talk. Basically we pooled our resources, and with everything overlapping, I went straight out and worked on some other areas and things like that. There are dinosaur tracks, and not like 20 or 100. There is literally a field that was a swamp that is now desert. It was boggy, and it has tracks of T-Rexes, velociraptors, giant herbivores that allegedly shook the earth when they walked. They were so big, and even really cool double tracks of where pteranodons or pterodactyls landed and would hop, and you can see their footprints. There's lots of there's a word for it. There's a lot of dinosaur dew, like a lot of. It's now rock, but there's all this dinosaur doo-doo that has turned into rock, of course, and it's this amazing field. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Yes, that. I can't believe I blanked on it. That is exactly what it is. And these Navajo guides, you can just go and they show you around. They work strictly on tips, and they take turns, and they of course also sell the local Navajo art, and they make stuff, and it's the jewelry is just stunning, and the knowledge base of these local people it's just crazy when it comes down to, if you want to really go off of the standard in quotes tour thing, go to Tuba. You need to go to the Navajo Nation. Locally, by the way, they have a really cool espresso shop. I'm a big coffee guy. And they even have a Starbucks too for those who want corporate. But they also have an independent pizza place that's pretty good. And Tuba is like a 6-block by 6-block town. Just so you know, despite that, they have 2 really nice hotels, or 3. They have a bunch of restaurants, but they have some corporate stuff. It's just bizarre because it's 6 by 6. You're in the middle of the Navajo Nation. You're still we were still like an hour plus from where we were exploring at the canyon. And what's even more interesting is just like within Tuba's city limits, which is kind of silly because you can look across desert into mountains for miles, but you drive about a mile out of town, and on your right there's just practically a wooden cardboard sign that says dinosaur tracks. And you pull in, and there's about 10 artists and guides that each take turns when you pull in for free. And who the hell cares about, here's the thing. This is what's so exciting for me. The first thing I ever wanted to do when I was a kid was be an archaeologist in reference to dinosaurs. I wanted to find dinosaurs and just do that stuff. So for me, this is a little bit of the kid talking, but I will tell you that getting out there, they're not roped off. You are walking, heck, you park basically on dinosaur tracks. You walk like try not to ruin them, but you are walking in them, on them, you're touching them. There is petrified bones still in place. It is so exciting and fun. It's hot, so definitely don't go. I had amazing Arizona desert weather, just so you guys know. For the most part, it was this beautiful, breezy, mid to lower 80s for most of our trip. I only got the horrible Arizona heat day one, and of course, I'm at the dinosaur tracks when the heat decided to come back, so it must have been 100 and change. It was not what it had been for 4 days or 5 days, and here we were. I couldn't stop shooting photographs. I'll have those on my channel too, because the detail you get when you walk around, I mean, you could honestly spend an unlimited amount of time and just walk around this field. That's how many dinosaur tracks there are. It's incredible, and it's free.
Well,
it was used for Jurassic Park. I forgot about that.
Okay, did you stay at the hotel where the Griswolds stayed when they visited the Grand Canyon?
There's 2 hotels that are really kind of their Navajo hotels are both very nice. So I'm sure they stayed at one of them, or I stayed at maybe I stayed at the one that they were at. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, I just wondered if that was has now become a tourist attraction in the wake of the popularity of the movie Vacation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. I didn't see anything posted or plaqued or anything said about it. It is, like I said, the stuff that you can get to. It's not like, Tuba is they have, of course, the Wind Talker Museum there, and I was bummed that it was closed.
Ooh, that sounds
the Navajo
fascinating.
Wind Talker. Yeah, my grandfather was a tank commander. He landed in a tank at D-Day and was actually in a tank through Belgium and Holland and France for Battle of the Bulge, and made it to Berlin in a tank. I've been fascinated with World War II. My great uncles, I had 7 great uncles that served in the South Pacific, and I was super fascinated with World War II. And the Wind Talker thing was, for those that don't know, it's the only unbroken code ever, because the Japanese didn't speak Navajo, go figure. And they could never break the Navajo language. And so there's, for all of those who haven't heard of it, but the Navajo, really did, the feat of their language carrying us and saving American lives and being a part of World War II and our victory in the Pacific. And in the war is just incredible. And the museum is right there in Tuba, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go. And it's like right across the parking lot from this really, really, really cute local espresso shop. It's the only one in town. So it's unless you're going to go to the supermarket and get Starbucks. But the Windtalker Museum is right there on one of those cross streets, and it's I just wish they had been open, but they weren't. And other things about the area, about the Anasazi, there are caves, there are graves, there are foundations to homes, there are stories of Bigfoot. For those interested, Sasquatch, there are stories of aliens as in cigar-shaped. One of the guides was very clear, we're going to do a show on it. I'm not usually the alien guy, but Elvin, the guide, just brilliant, man. And he's 17 generations Navajo, has lived across the dinosaur track field for his entire life. And he's seen some really strange things through winter and summer. And in the 70s, he saw a cigar-shaped UFO land, 4 little guys get out of it. I thought that was interesting. But his knowledge of the Anasazi and their grave locations and the mystery behind other indigenous people and just, again, even to fast forward, he and his friend are helping me with the locations of these platforms, these crane platforms, and these objects that are they from the plane crash? Are they from the Smithsonian? Is it from a mining company? There's just no way to do this with not only locals, but being able to do it with some of the local Navajo is just super exciting, really fun. It's super interesting, which I'm so sorry, Mark, I never got back and told you about the stick people that are found in the cave.
I was just going to ask you about that when you were done with this section. Take your time. We'll get to it.
Well, yeah, so there's just a lot of reasons, I think, for people to plan a stop in Tuba. And I know on a map they might think, oh, well, why don't we just go to Page, which is another hour and a half north. I think Tuba is worth a 2-day stop. And the reason is yeah, you could go look at, for those of you not that interested in dinosaur tracks, I think you could go out and still be pretty darn fascinated for at least an hour. I would hope you would have at least an hour or two attention span. But if you're really into dinosaur tracks, you're going to spend the whole day there. And if you like really, really beautiful and cool and interesting and intricate and just incredible jewelry, the stands of the artists that are there with the guides, 100% worth just looking at that. So you could definitely spend about a half a day at the dinosaur tracks. And if not, there's that whole unfortunate not able personally to see the Windtalker Museum. And then from Tuba, you can get to some of the other, there are some other more touristy, hikey things you could do. But I think it's a worthy stop for a day or two to get into it. And then the Anasazi, that's where I was going really, is that off the schedule, like kind of the standard Montezuma's Castle, I did stop because I do think it's relevant. Montezuma was not, they thought it was Montezuma. That's why they named it Montezuma's Castle, but it had really nothing to do with the Montezuma. But Montezuma Castle, really interesting. But the guides locally in Tuba, when you get out to the dinosaur tracks, I think it's worth the stop, because if you are willing to hire one of those guides to take you to some places in that area that no one is going to look at, other than some hardcore paleoanthropologists, archaeologists that are even interested in the area, there is literally no one looking at some really cool stuff that those local guides in Tuba, and that's really where I was going for this little, to wrap this one up, is to go to Tuba, go to the dinosaur track area, talk to the locals that are there, and just, we're going to do an interview with Elvin on Dark Hour Paranormal and on Not Aliens on my channel. I think there's lots of great people, but I would suggest that you go and plan that extra day to head into the hills, literally the hills, whether you're tracking Sasquatch, interested in aliens, but if you're even more importantly interested in indigenous history and especially all the legit crazy mysteries behind the Anasazi, their foundational homes and caves, and there are things that only a local Navajo guide could take you to. Oh my gosh, stop and spend the 2 days to do it. And I got nothing out of that other than I'm super excited about it. So I'm not trying to sell it, everyone. I will stop being excited and calm down here.
No, but you're getting access to all these places by the locals who know the land, and you're not going to find this stuff in tour books. It sounds like they gave you, a once-in-a-lifetime education and intimate knowledge of, the area, land, culture.
Yes, and I think that's what I'm most excited about is I like to bring things to people that I think they will enjoy thoroughly. And this is one of those things where you can't internet search it. You have to know someone who's done it, and then you'd have to even want to hear about it or hear their opinion or whatever. As far as, if you're interested in dinosaurs, if you're interested in Anasazi or all these other subjects, the reality is that there's not a direct brochure. I stumbled on it because when you do field research like this and it's part of the investigative journalism portion of it where, if you want to call it that, or just the experimental mind, I just ask the questions. It's a combo of luck that I was even able to locate the information I did that ended up creating this opportunity where I think anyone would really enjoy the adventure of creating their own tour. And this is not a hard one to do. Just go to the Tuba dinosaur tracks and ask to see some more stuff and hire a guide. And Alvin, like I said, and there's a couple more, there's some other guides. We're definitely gonna, have that information on Not Aliens, and definitely people should, make Tuba a stop for sure. But that is not, we're not at the end of the mysteries besides uranium, planes crashing, creating the FAA, creating the radar system. All that came from 1956, the cleanups in 76, the GE Kincaide Cave potentially still being there, but maybe not, and 120 miles of caves that have never been looked in, no one's ever gone to, which means that if you get a hiking permit and want to start platting out and looking in the canyon, you're going to be doing something that is literally, it's just laying in wait. It's there for you to go do it. So there's a call to legit adventure. There have been people who made it to the North and South Pole, but the reality is, even in what they've explored, there's no way they know all the details in a 40-mile long cave. And that's just one cave of 150 miles of things they found. And on top of it, in those caves, at the entrances, they have been finding something that they have coined to a group of people that they know lived at least 3,000 years ago, called, because that's all they find, the stick people. They're not Anasazi. They're not local indigenous tribes. There is a group of people that were making figurines, stick people, out of sticks. They were binding them together, and they were leaving them in the caves for people to find. And the interesting thing about it is there are some theories of what they have found. They think that maybe they were directional, like, hey, we're in the next cave, or we went left, or we went right, or the last person here, like, that the sticks people aren't just left there to say we were here. They were left there as a way to communicate between groups as they traveled cave to cave, is one of the theories. So that's just that's a thing. But the reality is they don't know who the cave people, they don't know who the stick people are at all.
Could these while you were talking about it, I was wondering if like these stick figures could have been left in the cave, like I know some of the archaic people left shoes in caves because there's kind of like a shrine in the cave, and they left the shoes there as like some kind of offering because the shoes were walking the earth. It was like a symbolic gesture. Could they be like dolls or something, or early form of a katina?
Yeah, like mom and dad are doing busy like cave work, and they're like, "Go sit over there, and make another stick person."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's always because there's always this thing. Well, it's something sacred. It's something. Well, what if it's not? What if it's just literally that's it. It's just a kid's toy, nothing special. Yeah, exactly that.
So no one has any idea about these people? They just
no. They've gotten as far as calling them the stick people, and then you have caves filled with bones, bats, every kind of dead vulture, bird, animal. There's horses, there's sloths, there's a zillion other things, and some of it, all they have is some of all they have is just the DNA remnant. I mean, we talked before or a little bit. I've been talking about sedimentary DNA, nuclear DNA testing. That's a new thing where they're actually able to, just from atoms, they're starting to be able to really do a lot of amazing research off of just, particles. And that's pretty dang crazy given where we are, where we used to have a whole tooth, which is still kind of a modern standard, yet the nuclear DNA testing has been going on now for almost a decade, but it's really gotten some momentum and traction in the news, and it's on the radar now, and it's starting to come up more. But yeah, I do think that it's just very, very, very interesting to know that any one of these caves contains enough natural history information that any individual institution that really wanted to, I guess you got to be selective with how you want to spend your money and what information you want to collect. But the amount of waste that represents tens of thousands of years of either animal or possibly human history, it's there, and somebody's got to do it. And every time you enter, you may damage some of it. But gosh, I think one of the greatest hindrances, I think you said it earlier, the changing of the guard, it needs to happen. Just saying, it's got to change. It's got to get.
I think
it just has to.
It's slowly happening.
Oh, I know. It's so slow, but it needs to happen in order for us to get to the bottom of this stuff. We're just never going to have the perfect technology. We need to just get into these things and do the best we can. I mean, that's what's been going on year after year, and I can understand that. Of everything you find, if it's similar, then okay, well, don't do anything to, maybe one of two situations or something, just leave one of them alone for a future technology. But right now it's just not I just don't think it's worth it. I think we have too much of a search and rescue on our history to wait for us to have the perfect technology to not lose any data sets because we don't know how to recover them. I'm not saying destroy it or burn it if we can't sort it out, but I think there's something about the storage side of it. I think there's a way for us to, hold on to it, but keep it safe until you can, but not going to explore something I just think needs to start being the wrong or the last solution, not the first. It's the wrong way to go, I think.
Okay, so speaking of the changing of the guard, with all the sedimentary layers that you can see on the canyon walls, did you see any of the black earth? But
oh yeah,
that's not really where you cover that in your book. It's not aliens. You're picking up where Colonel Fawcett started to formulate some kind of theory about it. What about 100 years ago? So,
Yeah, I think that we were actually standing on the rim of the canyon, and I think that conversation actually came up with Rex and I and Chandel. We were with a Navajo guide, and it did occur to me. I was looking at some of these canyon mesa tops that who's been on top of those ever in modern or even ancient times? They're so inaccessible that most of those tops, other than natural weathering, rain, cold, collective drifting of sediments from other areas in the the desert areas or there's just no way that anyone's disturbed the soil on the tops of some of these canyon bluffs. So it was absolutely my conjecture that, hey, if we're going to look for terra preta or any ancient engineered soil or seismic metamaterial, I'm thinking most of these plateau tops throughout the Grand Canyon have not been touched except for absolutely super, super, super great, distantly ancient societies and antiquities, time. There's no way anyone's ever... there's no way. It's just not possible. No one's been up there.
So it'd be unspoiled testing.
I would think so, except for whatever water runoff or I just can't imagine it blowing off like down to the rock, and then I just don't see that there was a period where, or glacially, I don't see a point where the tops of the canyon were covered in glacial material. I just don't think that's... I'm not saying it's impossible. In a billion years of history, I'm talking about like of the potential of an ancient advanced society having been in the Grand Canyon area for the last, sometime in the last even 100,000 years. I do not think for a second that they, it was ever removed by some glacial activity or some major, I don't know, I can't think of any nuclear or wind blowing that would have removed the lowest layers of soil sampling. I don't think that it could have happened. So, yeah, it is a possibility that when we start thinking about finding things, people want to go find the Kincaide Cave. I do too. It's interesting. But it's not as exciting to go, well, this whole time I've had 3 ounces of dirt I could have turned in my backyard. I've been making tomato plants, and apparently I have like, seven mummies in my own backyard or I have all the parts of an ancient lost technology or a genetic code that, connects Denisovan with an unknown species of Neanderthal. I mean, literally it's going to come down to machining and quantum computing. I mean, we're on the edge of a renaissance where, although we have very fast computers, we have great computers, quantum computing is going to make calculations soon for some of this. I mean, you and I can go buy a gene CRISPR and experiment quite insanely like Frankenstein. I mean, we could experiment with gene technology, which is crazy, but we could do that at home right now. And there's a possibility. It means, what we would be able to do with a quantum supercomputer and sifting, the idea of how long a current computer would take to sift a ton of dirt, literally 1 ton of dirt. I can't even fathom the computing power to have to deal with each grain and how many years it would take. And with quantum computing, I bet some of this stuff with that and other combined with other nanotechnologies, I see us being able to, you and I have a talk like this over some coffee or drinks while we have nanobots do 3/4 of the work and get answers in hours or a couple days. And yeah, anyway,
well,
it's...
Well, I was just wondering about, if there was this the Terra Preta was in Central and South America. Yeah, we know there are the Peruvian mummies. I just wondered if maybe some of the mummies that Kincaide reported could be Peruvian mummies. They came up here to Arizona. If they any of the Central American people who could have migrated to Arizona, if they could have engineered any of the Terra Preta, I don't know, just kind of throwing out a connection, a possible explanation for what Kincaide saw work in some of your book. The mummies and everything disappeared, by 1909, 1910? So that was still, 40 years before the invention of carbon-14 dating. So the mummies cannot be tested.
Yeah, it all comes back to standard academia. It's ridiculous. There's a point where it's just, you're just gonna say it's not me. It's not, no, it isn't. It's like a scene out of the Holy Grail where it's like, I chopped your arm off. No, you didn't. It's a scratch. And we're just gonna ignore all the scientific evidence in the room. And the Terra Preta, there is no way that there wasn't more continental currency in goods and exchanging going on. We have the Bay of Amphora jars, the Amphora Bay in Brazil. There's no way it was just one Hellenistic or whatever, so one Roman vessel that got, kind of just went off.
Shipwrecked.
Yeah, no way. There's too many linguistics in South America. Central America include Chinese linguistics. We have accounts from those a couple admirals from China. We have indications they landed as at least to California, and there's just too much evidence. Scott Walter's work with the Templars and the Vikings. In Minnesota itself, it's very clear that the Vikings made it into Minnesota and then adventured out from there. And it's not just the only thing. There's too many crossovers of all the different, the Moon-Eyed people, the Little People, the Cherokee Little People, the Moon-Eyed People, the Ant People. There's so many what was considered just, oh, we'll shrug it off, it's a mystery, it's folklore. And then Maya Blue, the idea that Georgia is likely the place where the Mayans were coming up with their blue pigment. And as far north, in Wisconsin, 9,000-year-old strains of corn that have been maintained for 9,000 years, and pyramids, and there's a number of indications that we don't have a complete history. We don't have it correct. The narrative is way off, but how far off? To your point, way far off. And trying to get back to the start is you have these elongated skulled humans that are being born with these elongated skulls. It's not cranial deformation. You have this engineered soil showing up in south, north, south, central, and in the Americas. And we're thinking growing, but it's also these stone spheres that are found all over. They're found all over Central and South and all over the world. And they also appear to do with, seismic metamaterial. We've covered all this, but specifically to the Grand Canyon and specifically to engineered soils, whether it's for growing food or piezoelectric properties, filtering heavy metals and carbon dioxide, or if it's, the buildings that were near the Grand Canyon were obliterated, and the remnants, the sedimentary remnant of those structures and creatures and flora and fauna, they're all still atomized. Still, it's mind-blowing, but a crystal, a cell-sized chunk on one of those plateaus that is maybe buried due to wind, due to weather in that area. Maybe it's only 18 inches deep. Maybe it's 30 inches deep, but maybe it's laid there undisturbed for 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 years, and it's just waiting for us to do the testing. And that's something I'm optimistic about changing. I don't think we have to wait for quantum computing, but I definitely think that there's technologies like that are on the horizon that could make more of an assembly line approach to our history, because it really is, I think, a search and rescue. It's not a search and recovery. Our history is somehow tied to our genetics, the way the rhythms work, the Schumann frequency, the way the human body works. There's something about this global pyramid, polygonal human genetic system that seems to be tied, not unintentionally, but very intentionally, with these large megalithic machines that we were building. And more importantly, we don't have eyes or ideas, we have our imagination on all the machines and buildings that are not pyramids but could have been built out of wood or materials that were repurposed or rotted or burned or rusted or all the above. And so our history is not only not complete, but our assumption that all the buildings were just megalithic stone, that's also, it's not an automatic assumption. It's just that the society that could have been living in and near the Grand Canyon could be very different from an Asiatic admiral empire with tens of thousands of Marines coming to land to explore Central and Southern America from China or from some other trade route. We don't have that contemporary information, but we also have this mystery of the Anasazi, and even further back of this, again, this global network of megalithic advanced builders that could have been doing things in the canyon that we have 120 miles of caves to go find them, or the ones that we've already looked at. We're assuming that they got all the answers or that they've sorted through everything. And now I wish I would have thought of it as far as a brilliant capstone. To your point, no one's climbing or getting out unless you have a helicopter on top of a lot of those plateaus. They're not doing it. So it's up to one of us or a listener out there to help plan or get permission to do something like that, and for us to start testing those soils at different depths. And it's, unfortunately, none of it's free. So sign up at Not Aliens.
But you did ask Marta about the underwater pyramid by Cuba. Yonaguni is being explored and it's been mapped out. So is Dwarka. If we can get submarines down that deep to get photos, and we have that kind of technology to map out the ocean floor. We're just the places in the Grand Canyon are inaccessible to, or some places are inaccessible to walk to, but you can get a helicopter to some of them.
That would be an idea. That would be it would be brilliant. It would be great. I have a friend who's a pilot. He flies the Grand Canyon, but hasn't been there in a little while. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you need so much money for fuel and to get the helicopter there, but then we need so much money for the testing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other half of it. It's like we got to do the testing. But it's all going to happen. It's just we have to prioritize. Where do we go first? What do we which one do we try to get in first? And which hilltop? Which one do we suspect is the remnant of a villa that was easily accessible in the day, and now it's just a remote mesa top in the middle of the canyon? Is there a location for multiple buildings, a city? Are we missing what could be very ancient mining machines or materials that have crumbled or look natural? Are some of those side canyons, as you between the two sides of the canyon, are there locations that we could look at that when you take the dust off of it, they're not really natural. They're actually artificial, but we don't have eyes on that. And permitting is actually very difficult right now. And it was actually something the paleoanthropologist that's been working on for 40 years, and he's well respected. He wasn't complaining. He was just pointing out that getting a permit to do work in the canyon is becoming more and more difficult. And it's like, well, why? That's one question. It's like, why are you making it harder for us to search and rescue our history so that we can apply it back to gene technologies and therapies and advanced equipments and, fill in the blank. There's a million reasons for us to want to improve again on past technologies that I just don't think they built pyramids or polygonal walls or any seismic material down to engineered terra preta. They didn't do it for funsies. They were doing it, I think, for very well designed reasons, and they're outside of our which is terrifying in itself. It's outside of our understanding as to why they even did it. That's what's really horrible.
Yeah, and you were mentioning the permits to explore, and that doesn't necessarily mean dig, but does anything show up on, say using Google Earth?
No, the detail's not there. So it doesn't get us to where we need to on the detail front.
Okay, well, yeah, it's LiDAR wouldn't be very useful with there already being no trees, but maybe getting some of the ground penetrating radar out there that could help to answer some questions.
Yeah. There's It would.
Yeah, and Rex is a pretty sharp guy. What were his conclusions after his visit?
Well, for him it was well, it was more complex. We did more with it than his other trips. And I mean, he's been to Arizona. He's been to Arizona. He's done a lot of research on a lot of stuff. And from the footage that we were able to review together, and that we created together, there's definitely it's inconclusive, like we said, on the location of the cave. It's not possible that it's where, as described, it was. And again, it's perfectly possible that the entrance has collapsed, that it isn't in the same shape, and it's hidden from us. So we have to take that into account, and now we got to go back and do the thermal work. So we're in agreement on doing thermal work, and that's about it. We got to do the thermal work. And as far as other mysteries, did not expect to find out that they were building crane platforms to help remove, the worst plane crash until we created the FAA, and that they're polluting the river, that you're kayaking and boating in potentially, partially, accordingly, it's allegedly safe. So for everyone listening, it's apparently safe, but, there is way more radiation than I wanted to hear about.
Well, wasn't there some kind of mining accident in Arizona within the last few years? And there was a lot of water, some kind of contaminated water that to a stream, naturally flowing stream from some kind of industrial site.
That one's ringing a bell. There's been a bunch. I don't have a complete list. I did not know that I could. I can tell you right now, I have hours left on the whole finding out how many mines have they shut down, how many mines are currently going to act or are acting on those 500 open permits. There's some legislation going on that they're trying to end this work in the canyon, but I don't know how you shut down America's uranium supply. I don't, if you find uranium, you go get it. And that's kind of been, that's part of our safety net, as a country. I don't think it's something to stop doing. However, they need to do it properly. And that's the part where I don't know if it's been done.
Right.
And yeah, so we're not, I think for Rex and I, we did both very much want to go back before the end of the month here with this new equipment, look at a couple other places, see what we can't sort out. But outside of that, there isn't, believe me, and we looked in about an 8-mile section for the Kincaide Cave. And it led us down these other roads, found out a lot of different info. I'm now trying to track down to do an interview with the paleoanthropologist, Professor Mead, that had done the article with the Arizona Gazette about the ancient sloths and the 40-mile cave. And I've come across some other experimenters working on aquifer studies. Like there's some aquifers, or at least one, that's under the Grand Canyon that they don't really have an explanation as to where it came from. So there's that. And that's interesting. Then, so there's a lot of information I'd like to bring to people that I am definitely going to include. There's 4K and 6K footage. I would like to put all that together into a more organized documentary that I'll put out on Not Aliens and on Not Aliens on YouTube. Feel free to look for me on YouTube. And Rockfin, I'm on Rockfin, and that's a member and a post thing, but there's so much when you have over 3,000 photos now and 55 gigs of aerial photography. It's just a lot of sorting. But when it gets done, because I'd really like to have quite a bit of it done before I end up having to go back to the canyon and shoot the same amount of footage or more again. And
Okay.
it'll be different stuff for people, but, it's a lot of work.
Okay. Yeah. And Jared, we're down about 3 minutes left, and you just mentioned you want to bring your adventures to people and help put into perspective our history. So how can people learn more about what you're doing? You just mentioned notaliens.com, and they can find you on Rockfin. What other ways do people have a chance to look at your information?
Yeah, so, notaliens.com. There's the member area, the public area, which is going to list what shows I'm on. So, like for this show tonight. So when shows are done and if they're available to the public and they're not behind a paywall, I always try to keep up on I'm just getting caught up. The last couple months has been crazy, but I always post links for everyone on my main page. You can always see what shows I'm going to be on next. Tomorrow night I'll be on Leak Project. I'm recording some things, but then, like you said, the Rockfin channel. And right now I'm in the middle of doing a feature-length documentary that I'm hoping to be able to release to everyone the following Friday. And so you'll find me, again, on those 3 platforms. And as far as I'm not lecturing yet anywhere in person. There was a conversation about Rex possibly doing his event again this month. So there's a chance that Leak Project might be doing something and I might be lecturing live. But I'll have to keep you posted on that.
Okay. All right. So we're just about out of time, and I wanted to thank you, and Marta will get the archive to you tomorrow, and Barbara will be back Monday, and I'm returning next Wednesday night with David Brody to cover his new book, Pillars of Enoch. So it should be an interesting book. So, yeah, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we'll see everyone next week. Thank you again, Jared and Marta.